Good evening. Glad to see you after the Thanksgiving holiday. ESA gets a record 22 billion plus euros over 3 years to expand their programs. Varda wants to make space boring. We'll see how that goes. The first private space telescope is launched, and Russia forgot to lock something down and accidentally destroyed their only way to get humans into space. We'll look at that. Orbit Fab, one of our favorite companies, wins ESA funding for on-orbit refueling. ESA, again, commits to being an anchor customer for LEO cargo return services. They really want to build their program quickly. They also have committed, get this, to building Gateway. We have a lot to say about that. We have a Bryce commercial launch Q3 report to show you quickly. All this with our guest, COTS legend Dennis Stone. This is going to be a night of incredible history and probably some funny stories. From the news decks at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you know, this program is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. What do we do? Pray tell. We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy. Our pitch events and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor-ready. Now, a lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by listeners and fans like you. So if you just go to cscf.space/support and click that plain as day donate button, that would be great. A little in the tip jar, especially this time of year when everyone's coming at you, will make a big difference. Now, my oldest space friend, Michael Lane, who just caught a pair of golden fish from Puget Sound, is here with us. Michael, come on in, man.
Hey, how's things?
Hey. Okay. Did you get through Thanksgiving okay?
Thanksgiving officially ended yesterday, and I had the last piece of pumpkin pie about 2 hours ago. So it started Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, then Sunday, and my last piece of pie was 2 hours ago. So it was a pretty great Thanksgiving. I was pretty happy about that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. You? How'd it go?
Oh, it's okay. We went to see friends, and so we got to bring home a few leftovers, but we didn't have to cook anything ourselves. We didn't have to get our house in order, And I broke training and got a bottle of Jameson for the occasion, and I think I just finished that last night. So Thanksgiving's open for me as well.
It's over, right?
Jamie, yep, see you again at Christmas. It's like,
right?
I'm not there anymore. Right. So. But
I had officially said I was going to check out, and being kind of a perpetual bachelor, there's no way I'm going to host. But I get to go to everybody's house and get leftovers, so my fridge was pretty stocked. So that's the way to do Thanksgiving. That's what Yeah. All right.
Oh God, Morty's back with us. Hey, Morty, welcome.
Hey,
welcome back.
Welcome back. He told me a little bit about his trip to Germany and Japan. So that was great. Sean's calling me a mooch. Absolutely. Absolutely. You went out and had 4 kids, Sean. I'm the guy who's like, you guys do that. I'm not doing that. So 5 kids. Sorry, 5 kids. 5 kids. Yeah, so I do have to be that kind of bachelor level mooch. So I play my part well. I do.
No cable. Jeez.
Yo, Sean is typing
5 kids. Where is Johnny anyway? I don't know. You packed. Yeah.
Right. For those that are listening on Spotify, Sean, our producer, is making some comments in the private chat that is pretty funny, but maybe not necessarily stuff we want to repeat on air. So let's get going. Hey, Aiden, welcome. Good to see y'all.
Oh yeah, Aiden. Hi. How you doing? Welcome.
Yeah, yeah.
And so here's the thing. We'll start out with the big one. So ESA announced last Thursday it secured a record budget of 22.1 billion euros to fund its programs but it's for the next 3 years. So I guess in dollars, that's about maybe 10 billion a year for 3 years, something like that, a little less.
Yeah.
So not a NASA-like budget, even at its current level, but it's something. They are determined. The EU and ESA are bound and determined to have a greater independence.
Yeah.
All the things that are going on and all the new commercial ideas that are going on. I don't know how well they're going to do with that in the commercial side. They just don't have the track record that we do in this country, but they're working on it. Don't count them out. They don't say that, they can't do it. They're going to move ahead.
17 years ago, I was invited out to Greece it was supposed to be a week-long event. I stayed there for 5 months. And what they asked me as a consultant was to figure out how Greece can become the Silicon Valley of Europe. And I had to be polite, but I couldn't stop laughing at the idea, because Europe is notoriously risk averse, and they have a big social penalty, social stigma around failure. I don't know how Europe decides that they build a space system that can, the ecosystem that can support this hyper risk, prone to failure environment.
Well,
I hope so.
Yeah. The hard thing is, I mean, just look at them in general, not even at their space sector, but just look, what does it cost to start a company in the EU? I know in Switzerland, it's 100,000 up front.
Wow.
To give to bureaucrats to get the paperwork done.
Right. Wow.
And so, yeah. It's got to be that way everywhere.
This comes on the heels. We've talked about Germany just committed $35 billion over, I think, 5 years or 8 years. 8 years, I think. So we've been talking for a year now. Tom, you reminded me this is our 62nd episode, so yay for us.
Yeah.
But for about a year now, we've been talking about sovereignty and independence being a prime driver for these national space programs. So this is Europe's like, well, Germany's going to do their part, but we're going to do ours. I think I wonder how that's going to play out.
Yeah, because I've just read a thing today. I can't remember where it was. It wasn't enough to include here, but they were talking about a lot of countries want to have sovereign astronauts.
Yeah.
And who do you fly them with, and what do they do with what it's going to cost? And those discussions are going on and on and on all over, the Euro sector and in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So,
well, this quote from one of the directors says, "Defense is always a matter of national sovereignty, but pooling and sharing assets also has a European dimension." So Germany is contributing 5 billion euros to this new $25 billion budget, and France is putting in almost 4 billion euros. So, it's the normal space players have just kind of pooled their assets a little bit. But it is interesting. It is.
And so next up, interestingly, Varda, who is big on, they're the downmass company. They are predicting that within 10 years, someone could stand at a landing site and watch multiple specialized spacecraft per night zooming toward Earth like shooting stars, each carrying pharmaceuticals manufactured in space. And within 15 to 20 years, it'll be cheaper to send a working class employee to orbit for a month than to keep them on Earth. And and so this is kind of what they're predicting for what the future looks like. It's just there's such incredible regularity to what's going on. It becomes, if people don't notice it, it becomes, it just becomes boring. They're on other things that excite them, because space has now become, it's this big commercial thing, and people are going up and stuff is coming down, and yeah. And they make the argument about manufacturing crystals in space and pharmaceuticals and all those kinds of things. But the real issue is, yeah, we're getting started now, but just wait. Just wait. In another decade, this is going to be insane.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised by some of this stuff. So the CEO, Brewy, talks to members of Congress. He talks about the 7 domino theory. I'm just going to read them off quickly here. Domino 1, reusable rockets. Domino 2, manufacturing drugs in orbit and returning them. Domino 3 is the big one, getting a drug into clinical trials. And he talks a lot about the clinical trial component. Domino 4 triggers the feedback loop. As Varda scales, costs drop, making the next tier of drugs economically viable. More drugs mean more scale, lowering costs again, and that will shove launch costs into the ground. He's got 2 others, and I've kind of lost the thread of it, but I was pretty impressed. I had not really thought about drugs as being an economic driver. I thought they were kind of a side hustle for space.
Yeah.
But I'm actually rethinking that. I'm rethinking that just from this.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment we just got from Joe Pastrito. I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back, man.
Hey, Joe.
He said, personally, I think this will be a big driver of private space stations. Note that Starlab already has a deal with Airbus, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of talk about that right now. All the money that's pouring into that. I mean, Voyager closed a $450 million thing in 2 days. It was a convertible note of a 0.75% interest. So come on, man. I mean, that's just insane what's going on with that stuff. And so for private space stations. So you know, we're on our way. So how do we tap in, I guess?
Yeah,
and we've talked about that. We're going to be talking about some more soon. You ready?
Yeah.
Next thing, very, very quick. I just noticed it's kind of a nice little blurb in Sky and Telescope. The first private space telescope has been successfully launched, and they say it's going to be a harbinger of things to come. It's the size of a mini fridge. And is on a SpaceX Transporter 15 rideshare mission launched just this last Friday. Carried 140 CubeSats, and including something called MAVE, which is an ultraviolet visible little telescope. And unlike other space observatories, MAVE is owned by a private company, which means, of course, its data will be private too. The ultraviolet spectra be provides. It's on a subscription model. So researchers who subscribe, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I've not seen astronomy as a service before.
I know, that's what it is, though, and really high-end kind of astronomy in the ultraviolet spectrum that no one else is looking at. And so you pick a niche that no one else is looking at and say, okay, we're going to get all the data we can and then charge a subscription fee for it. That could be a really great model.
It's kind of intriguing. I'm not going to name him, but one of my advisors was one of the people who allocated time on the Hubble telescope.
Okay.
And he would get actual, not figurative, actual death threats from grad students who have put, or PhD students who have put 5 or 10 years of their life into investigating this one thing, but their case wasn't strong enough. They didn't get the telescope time. They're not going to get their PhD because he had to allocate it to something else. No. And the idea of folks just queuing up and paying a small fee. I kind of love that. I hope that this, and this also kind of goes back to our friend Alex McDonald, Dr. McDonald, that he talked about the earliest American, he only said American, earliest American observatories were commercially driven. So I thought that was really cool. I thought there was something really interesting in this idea.
Yeah. And so, well, maybe we'll see more of those. Not just astronomy as a service, so maybe other things we haven't thought of that will end up like that too.
Yeah.
But I want to move to one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Russia accidentally destroys its only way of sending astronauts to space. I cannot believe
that was your
I'm reading this. I just can't believe I'm freaking reading this. It's absolutely amazing. There's like a 20 metric ton piece of equipment that you're supposed to fasten into place before launch, and they didn't, and it shook loose and rolled into the launch area and just like destroyed everything. Oh my God. I mean, they could still launch other stuff. They even have a facility in Kourou. And so they have other places they can go to launch certain things, but not crewed missions. This was the place.
Oof.
What a reversal of fortune, though, when you think about it. It was between the end of the shuttle and 2020, we were buying the ride from them to ISS. And now here we are. They're going to have to buy it from us.
The shoe is on the other foot. I hope we are as mercenary as they were during our shuttle, non-shuttle days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't call Axiom. They don't know what to do. But I say that.
Wasn't it their head of Roscosmos who said use a trampoline when I'm like, well, we could send them a trampoline emoji.
Right, a big one, a really giant one to put on top of a hole. Right, here we go.
Here you go. I'm glad nobody was hurt. I don't wish the Russians bad news. They definitely have caused themselves enough bad news lately, but it is mildly amusing. So oops.
Okay. Now something a little more positive. Our buddies at Orbit Fab just won ESA funding to create a landmark in-orbit refueling mission for ESA. So they're getting around and they're making stuff happen. I love that because they're this whole refueling thing in orbit. I mean, they've really gotten into that and they're doing really well and they're raising lots of money and they're building the things they need to build. And here we are. It's paying off now.
Yeah.
The Astral experiment. So the first in-orbit test.
How long has Orbit Fab been pushing this rock?
8
years, 9 years,
at least 7 or 8 is before COVID. So they started that thing. So 2018 maybe 17, 18.
Good on them. If I remember right, if their press releases are to be believed, I think they basically did a back of the napkin sketch for what became Rafty. That's their kind of gas cap system in space. And they flew it within, I don't know, 90 days or 120 days or something like that. So good on them. I'd like to see them actually succeed. They've sure been pushing it for a long time.
I know. And I've known Dan Faber for more years than I can count as well. And so to see him to help take this over the top is just pretty amazing.
Yeah. He was just a young kid. He joined the space community early on. Actually, in our old roots, Space Frontier Foundation is the first time I ever encountered him.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. All right.
Now, okay, so ESA's in the news again.
Stick with ESA. What do we got there?
Yep. They are, well, there is a company that's doing LEO cargo return services, and during the ministerial council meeting in Bremen, member states agreed to fund 2 cargo delivery demonstration missions, and with LEO cargo return services initiative, they're fostering the development of an in-house commercial cargo space transportation service. And they just awarded phase 1 contracts to Thales Alenia Space and the Exploration Company, and they'll each get 25 million euros. Phase 2 will be open to all providers. I don't know what kind of money that involves, but they're willing to be an anchor customer for this once it's built.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And this is the same ministerial meeting that committed to that more money, 25 million US.
Yep.
25 billion US.
Yeah.
So a lot happened at this minister meeting.
Yep. But it takes a lot to get invited to it. So you and I aren't getting an invite to those anytime soon.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the last big thing that came out of that meeting.
Yes.
That one's interesting.
This is wild. I hope our guest take on this as well. The whole system, of Artemis also circled around a piece of tech called the Gateway. Now, there's a lot of pushback on that. A lot of people in our community say that the Gateway really isn't needed. We didn't need it before. We don't need it now, and it's just basically a system of the contractors, by the contractors, and for the contractors. That's what Zubrin said about it. In the beginning, and so we were all afraid it was going to be a toll booth of some kind. Well, and so I guess to take the pressure off, I don't know how else to put it. The ESA is going to take this thing over. They're going to build it. They're going to build their own money.
I can't even comment with a straight face.
I know. I had that acting training in school. That teacher's so proud of me. She's like 85 now, and it's like.
Right. No, so I don't have the same heartache and frustration with Lunar Gateway that other people do. I don't think it is vitally important, but I don't think it is quite the boondoggle that other folks do. But at the end of the day, it's billions over budget, years over timeline, and the world has kind of moved past it, right? The gravitics, the vasts, the axioms, the Voyager, the orbital reef. There's 5 programs that are better funded, better managed, more on time, and ready to take the place of what Gateway was supposed to be.
Interestingly, I didn't realize this at first. I thought most of the modules were being built here on the NASA dime. Turns out they were building the majority of the modules anyway. 2 of the 3 original modules were being built by the EU anyway. And a lot of the other support equipment and a lot of things were being farmed out at that time to ESA. Right. Well, they're just going to take it. They're just going to own it. And so it'll become their thing.
Well, I kind of love this line. I'm going to read it directly. The fate of the Lunar Gateway has been a bit uncertain. That sounds like Tom's vaguely important.
Yeah.
The fate of the Lunar Gateway has been a bit uncertain since the proposed 2026 budget by the Trump administration cut it out completely. It also removed the need for European hardware for the Artemis mission by canceling the space launch system of the Orion spacecraft, for which has provided the European service module. So I was like, all right, that is a friendly way of saying that they have lost faith in NASA's ability to do the things that they contractually committed to. Yeah.
Politics changes everything, doesn't it?
Sure does. So seriously, let's back up for a second. Do you think the Gateway actually will get built in Europe?
I guess they'll probably have to, if they're gonna. Yes, the short
You think
version is
so?
yes. Because they were already working on it. Now they've got some money to do it with all that big. I'm sure some of that 22 billion euros that was just
Right.
announced
Yeah.
today will end up there. And they were going to build those modules and put them up there, and they can certainly, if they want to spend the money, they can launch it on an Ariane 6.
Well, I hope that all that happens. This is one of
Because
the
they've
better
got the
quotes
ability
here.
to do it themselves.
This is one of the quotes. No matter what the future holds for Artemis and Lunar Gateway, ESA has a lot of plans for the moon. The Moonlight program will develop infrastructure and systems that will allow communications and navigation services around the moon. So, okay, it would be really interesting to see them pull that together. I for one, would actually cheer it, not because I care about the Gateway, but I'd like to see Europe's lunar program mature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're determined to do that too.
Yeah.
So
All right.
On that note, how about we bring in our guest for tonight? Our guest tonight is none other than NASA and COTS legend Dennis Stone. What folks may not realize is that it was programs like commercial orbital transport systems that COTS that made Elon Musk in many ways possible. It was that early investment in. They took a little bit of NASA money and set it over on the side here, and we'll see what we can do with it in the private sector and see if we can help promote them a little bit. And so it wasn't a lot. I think 100 million went into there at first, and then it increased a little bit over time. But a lot of great stuff came out of there. A lot of great private sector stuff came out of there, including what's going on with SpaceX right now. It also spawned all sorts of other 3-letter programs or 4-letter programs that are kind of like piggybacked on COTS, and they're still doing things to this day. And so my good friend Dennis Stone is here with us now. We're going to talk about how the future was initially built and show about the following analogs, and of course the lessons learned for space commercial development today, and that's still going strong. Dennis, come on in, man.
Hello.
Hey.
Great to be with you.
Okay. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away,
right,
this program got created. And I want people to know about this because the younger people who watch our show or listen to it, they probably don't understand the unique confluence of ideas and craziness and money and that came together in a way that might never happen in the same way again in our lifetime. Put this thing together that actually made it all work. So as we dive into that, please lead off. I want you to tell us kind of your origin story. I know you were at NASA for 38 years and you did a lot of great things. Just lead off with that a little bit, and then let's dive into COTS.
No, I was one of those kids raised on the Apollo program and Star Trek. What more do I have to say, right? I was hooked at an early age, and so proud to be able to work for NASA for those many years, and particularly the last half of my NASA career on this very disruptive partnership concept that led to SpaceX and many other things. It was really a great opportunity for me to be part of that because we really, I think, made history.
Well, so explain what COTS is and walk through the history of it, because what seems really obvious today was a radical idea back then. And got a lot of pushback, and people bet their careers on this idea. And if it hadn't worked, y'all were looking for other jobs.
Yeah, and so what was going on is, NASA knew that the shuttle program was ending, and there was a space station that needed to be serviced with crew and cargo flights. And believe it or not, this was the year 2006, the baseline, NASA's plan to service the space station after the end of the shuttle 5 years later, like 2011, was to use Orion. Looking back, that didn't quite work out. In fact,
Right.
I don't believe it's actually carried any people yet in the year 2025. But 20 years ago, that was the plan. Bush had just taken office as president. Mike Griffin was nominated as NASA administrator, and there were these little, noisy, bothersome little commercial companies in orbit around Capitol Hill saying, "Don't create another space shuttle. We can do this." And people were saying, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." And they were loud and they were annoying, and so Congress said, "Hey, Mike Griffin, can you fence off a little money and just give these guys a little busy box that can go, so we can prove that they can't?"
Right.
Mike said, "Yeah, sure. Well,
So
500
we can
million
prove that they can't.
Yeah, 500 million over 5 years. That's a rounding error."
Right. Yeah.
It did go up to 800 at the end, but anyway. So the problem is that we failed to fail. And much to some people's surprise, and we were successful, and it wasn't just us. Like you said, Elon was absolutely paramount. But Elon said if it wasn't for NASA and the COTS program, they would have splashed their last Falcon 1 into the Pacific Ocean near Kwajalein, and probably closed up shop. And we'd be on shuttle 2 right now. But it was successful, and it created a whole new paradigm. In fact, I published today a blog post. You can go to DennisAStone.com and see it, and I'm sure there's links all over the place about the history of the COTS program, what it is, and very brief history. What does COTS mean? When has it been used by NASA? What kind of impact it's had, and what are the prospects for its use? But briefly, COTS is a two-step approach where if we think that there might be other customers for what NASA needs, then instead of buying a government-owned and operated system that the government has to pay for and maintain, that instead they should buy a service for data from a commercial entity who can also sell those services to others. And therefore, everybody shares cost, and it's cheaper for the taxpayer. And oh, by the way, it might actually stimulate the economy. That's the model, this two-step approach to investment, and then, if that's successful, investment in development of the capability, and then purchasing services. So that's what we did on COTS. And the rest is history, frankly. That two-step approach has been used not only on commercial cargo to the space station, commercial crew to the space station, replacing the TDRS constellation. That NASA's doing that under COTS. Commercial LEO destinations, the last program I worked on at NASA to replace the space station, following the exact same model, a period of investment followed by a period of purchasing services.
And Eclipse moving into the moon, same story, same model, right?
Yes, as I quoted in my blog, I used to teach this class at NASA. I said, if your job at NASA is to collect gravity waves, don't use the COTS model. There's no other markets for that. That should be government-owned and operated. Yeah. But if your goal is your program's mission is to house Artemis astronauts on the lunar surface, there might be some other customers for that in the near term. Look at the COTS model. Consider buying services instead of buying hardware on the moon. So and so there really are two NASAs today. There's the NASA that is doing the commercial cargo, commercial crew, commercial destinations, commercial communications, moving to the service and data buy instead of government taking on these big, expensive systems. And then the old NASA is the one that has big, expensive systems doing things like, today the space station, you mentioned Artemis, and science. I'm not saying those are bad programs by any means, but
Right.
they're a different paradigm where it's, buying government-owned and operated systems, paying cost-plus contractors, very low risk, but also very, tends to be much more expensive than the kind of the new NASA doing the service buys. And those two NASAs have peacefully coexisted for decades now. But it will be interesting to see how the next administrator looks at that dynamic and does the pie change.
Yeah, it might. I did love, because there's a after COTS there's like a string of things that all sorts of, as you said, 3-letter or 4-letter programs that came on beyond that. We'll talk about that in a minute. My favorite thing though was you called your organization the Commercial Crew and Cargo Program Office, also known as, but in short, C3PO.
Yeah, that was my idea.
That was, I love it.
Sorry, George.
These are the guys that have a little bit of snark and they're a little bit on the fringes,
right?
And you kind of, that's your way of saying, yeah, this is what we do, man. This is
Yeah, it was disruptive innovation. And the first thing I did on the COTS program 20 years ago, practically to the day,
really,
today, was I hired a venture capitalist. Because I said, this is an investment. We have to think.
News. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I hired a venture capitalist. His name was Alan Murray, a great guy, because I knew we had to think like an investor. NASA's brilliant technically, the greatest engineers in the world, but we're investing here. We've never done that before. And so he arrived with a box full of books called the Innovator's Dilemma and things like that. How to change your mindset, how to build your culture to enable disruptive, innovations and not disruptive technologies. But he said COTS was a disruptive technology, if you will, within the NASA culture. And anyway, we had a blast. Instead of asking for a 1,000-page proposal with addressing 1,000 requirements, we said, send us the business plan. Yeah, look through it. Hey, let's go talk to these guys. Right. We talked to them and asked the tough questions, made the management teams squirm, and then picked a few for due diligence, and did it that way. And this was never done in NASA before, unheard of. Created this new instrument called the Funded Space Act Agreement, which was very flexible.
Never happened
allowed
before,
this.
right? Yep.
It was not under the federal acquisition regulation, so we had a lot of freedom. And Congress gave NASA that authority. So thank you, Congress, to enable this.
I was just going to bring that up because the Space Act Agreement is still around to this day, and people don't realize that thing had its genesis with you guys.
Well, a lot of agencies have what's called other transaction authorities, OTAs. DoD does, DOE. NASA's had it since for I think since the days of the Apollo program, so they could just get things done. If the FAR was too much of a burden, NASA could go do an emergency this or that to kind of stay on track. And it's careful. NASA uses it very judiciously. It's not to buy things. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to use the FAR and have the proper competition, but NASA uses it in very, very, very innovative ways to create partnerships. So in COTS, in the COTS model, in this investment phase, NASA doesn't buy anything, doesn't receive any goods or services. It's simply an investment. It doesn't take equity, by the way. We still call it investment for the good of the country because it's investing in the capability that NASA and hopefully other customers will buy if they're successful. And so the Funded Space Act Agreement does that. Also, there's other kinds of Space Act agreements. I could spend an hour talking about it, but to do cooperative development, and there's even the kind where companies pay NASA to a reimbursable agreement to get access to something that NASA might have that's unique, a facility or some technical capability. So it's a very powerful partnership tool.
Yeah, well, it may have gone on for a long time in various forms, but you guys really gave a name to it. You gave it a name, that is on everybody's brain now, 20 years later. And so they still talk about Space Act agreements. Even people who don't know what they're talking about talk about Space Act agreements to get things done. That's kind of just the longitudinal, way to go. So that came from there. What came after? So let's get to the point where, okay, you guys actually gave some money to certain companies or combinations of companies. I'd like to talk about the process and how we got from this thing to that thing as an end game after spending $800 million.
Yeah, well, phase one was a competitive award of funded Space Act agreements. We had, real quick, we awarded SpaceX and a company called Rocket Plane Kistler. RPK, unfortunately, was terminated. And so we took the point is we still had most of the money left and had another competition in 2008. And at that point, selected Orbital Sciences. They had the Cygnus spacecraft and the Antares rocket. They're now part of Northrop Grumman.
Yep.
And both SpaceX and Northrop Grumman then won the contract, the part 2 of the COTS model, the contract for services that was awarded in 2008 as well. So that's been very successful. SpaceX, again, true to the COTS vision, not only sold their product, their service to NASA, but the Falcon 9, not the Dragon as much, but the Falcon 9 has been a revolutionary export, if you will, for the United States to launch, the world's satellites, communication and other satellites. And so they really took advantage of it much more than Northrop did. And again, the rest is history. They've changed space. They've changed the world.
Yeah.
Because I remember that the first big success when they were doing it was just the Dragon capsule just for a supply run. Early on, the Dragon also came out of this, and that was
right.
That ISDC where Charlie Bolden was speaking in 2012, and he had a live screen going on behind him, and you saw that docking thing of the first. Dragon capsule to lock on there. Everybody went nuts.
That was a big
Michael
day.
was sitting next to me.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
Doing Marine Corps chants of some kind.
I was, yep. Right?
Yep. You were out there like, oh, man,
Yeah, we failed to fail.
Yeah.
It was a very successful program.
Yeah.
Lori Garver was there on the sidelines, and that was a good day. That was a fun day.
What came next? COTS had a big pedigree going forward, and there are some things that kind of had its philosophical beginnings during COTS that are still existing today and adding some value. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, like I said, the model was successful. We started commercial crew. We had some Obama shovel-ready stimulus money. I had some funded Space Act awarded early commercial crew companies, but it spun off into its own program, the commercial crew program, which is still ongoing to this day. I mean, SpaceX is flying. The services have been delivered. Boeing is still, as you know, still maturing their system, shall we say.
This week is the first week in the whole shuttle, the whole ISS's experience, 25 years, where all 8 docking ports are full. There's so much activity to ISS that all 8 docking ports are full. So I gotta think that had some, COTS and the programs that followed on probably had something to do with where we are today.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And as I said, I didn't mention the CLIPS, the small payloads to the moon. Before that, NASA bought those services commercially. There was Lunar Catalyst, which was unfunded Space Act agreements, which don't give companies money, but gives them free technical services from NASA. So that was a version of the COTS model. TDRS replacement, it's ongoing right now. The Glenn Research Center is managing the phase 1 of that program. again, a period of investment, and then NASA will buy commercial communication services instead of operating its own fleet of satellites. And last but not least, CLD is following the COTS model, again, almost exactly. The model is flexible, and so what NASA recently announced was instead of going directly from investment to services, there'll be another phase of investment. We're expecting that to be released in final form any day now. But it's still a COTS model. So investment and demonstration followed by buying of services.
So who's getting favored by the CLIPS model now? Who are they looking at?
The CLIPS model?
Yeah.
Well, as I say, that's just the same model, just applied to small payload delivery to the lunar surface. I haven't been following CLIPS that closely.
So we'll see if they'd actually, pick some companies to work with already, or.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean. Astrobiotic and Intuitive Machines. Various companies are very active in that program, and there are some commercial customers. To what extent, I haven't followed.
All right.
My focus is on LEO.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, what are you working on now that your focus is on LEO these days?
Yeah, I mean, so with my experience at NASA in the commercial LEO development program, and then I went to work for VAST. I supported them for 2 years. I'm consulting now, and I'm really excited about this because I can help many players who might be looking for a little guidance on how to navigate the CLD program. Who are the competitors? What are the markets? What is NASA doing? What is the funded space act agreement? How can they work with NASA and the company? So I'm also very interested in market development. We talked earlier about drug development. I'm not sure about drug production and manufacturing, but certainly there's a huge market for drug research and development, as well as R&D of for other industries that can benefit from microgravity. I really am excited about those markets, and so as much as we're been working on the supply side of services, I think I'm also anxious to help those on the demand side find markets other than the current ISS government partners, NASA, ESA, JAXA, CSA. Because for LEO to be sustainable, there's going to have to be markets, and the government may be anchor tenants, but over time, I think they want to see the share of the pie decrease, not just by reducing their share, but by seeing a bigger pie. Because all the other little governments around the world wanting to, use CLDs to fly their astronauts and do things good for their countries, and companies, biotech and other companies making money from removing gravity in their research and development.
Okay, well, this raises that question because you're really deeply involved in the commercial space station arena now in your consulting practice, and even before that. There's a lot of companies that are bringing big money to the table to do this. I just saw a big thing from some interview with Dylan Taylor and Voyager just today. He's talking about that kind of money they're bringing in to do things on their own. I mean, VAST is in play. There's a couple other outfits that are in play. There's ESA now says they want to build Gateway and put it out there. I don't know if they're going to actually do that and rent it out or what's going on. But the elephant in the room is always the ISS is going to be, shut down in 2030. So how does that play into everything? And because the biggest complaint, let's save the ISS, these people have is that we've had that continuous occupation. That seems to be the whole thing to them. It's just we've had a continuous occupation. We should never lose a continuous occupation. And who else could possibly pick up the slack to have a continuous occupation station again?
Preach, brother, preach.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. That is
Yeah,
my very
So,
hard line. Yes,
what do you-
continuous
so-
operations.
You're in the crosshairs. What do you think? What do you got? What's your view?
Well, there are always going to be folks who want to keep the space station. You know some of them. I know some of them. And by the way, the space station has been an incredible success for all of the international partners. I've spent much of my career working on ISS. It's a great machine. It's demonstrated kind of markets we were just talking about.
Yep.
But just like, SpaceX would have never happened had NASA not canceled the space shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
The next great revolution in space, I guarantee you, will not happen if we don't end the space station program in a timely manner and have a nice transition to commercial stations.
So
I can't prove
to go.
I can't prove the next revolution is going to happen if we do that, but I can prove it won't happen if we keep station alive, because it's a big.
I 100%. I'm not in the boohoo camp about ISS. So I used to drive a 1974 Porsche convertible, right? That is a POS car now. I love it. It's still my favorite car ever, but it's 1974 and it rattles above 70 miles an hour, right? So that's the International Space Station. No different. State of the art once, but isn't there anymore. You do need to do something with it. I don't care whether they boost the orbit and turn it into a museum or push it into the oceans. I don't care about that. What I care about is that those 5 or 6 or 7 station companies succeed and we keep our 25-year track record going. That's what I care about.
Right. And I wouldn't get too hard over just speaking as an individual on having have a heartbeat up there every single moment over this transitionary period. There might be a time frame where we're up every month or every couple months as these CLDs start gearing up and start building out. Because frankly, in a constant budget environment, NASA might not be able to keep station running and invest in one or more CLDs. So the only solution may be there's a gap. It's not going to be the end of the world. It may be the beginning of a new world, a new commercial world. So Mike, I would ask you if you consider tolerate a little breather at times.
Okay.
But hopefully there will not be a gap. I mean,
okay.
Companies like Vast, where I worked, amazing company. I mean, they're scheduled to launch their first space station in May of next year.
Right, 5 months from now, 6 months. From now.
So it's very possible there will be no gap.
No. But we have to mention another. It's not an elephant in the room. It's something about half that size, maybe. But the Chinese space station. Now they're coming in and they want to have a continuous occupancy, and will some folks around the world start looking to that?
I think that's the dragon in the room. Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, they're going to be out there. They already are, I'm sure, trying to get countries to participate. And I think then the calculus is more one of international diplomacy than markets and technologies like we've been talking about. So everybody has camps, and so I'm sure they'll be working with those in their camp.
So what do you think of Gateway?
Belts and roads and rockets.
Belts and roads and rocks. Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think of ESA wanting to take over Gateway? Does it matter in the grand scheme?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the new NASA and the old NASA. Gateway, again, it's a good program. I know a lot of the people there are very, very talented. I've always wondered about the mission need, because remember Apollo. There's my Apollo poster. went straight to the moon. There wasn't a need for a station there where they get out of one vehicle and go into another. I mean, they did some interesting things with the LEM and whatnot, but I always felt that there are more efficient ways to land people on the moon. But Gateway has other missions, to do science and international cooperation. And you mentioned by 4 of the contractors. Yes, having Gateway might actually help make it easier for NASA to cancel the ISS, because there's a trained workforce that's ready to go work on the next government space station. So anyway, I'm not really answering your question directly.
Okay.
I have questions of my own.
Okay, that's fine. We got about 4 minutes left. I want to go into a little bit. This is what we ask every new guest is what your view. And you've seen a lot, as much as we've had over many, many, many years. And so I'd like to get your take. What do you see our world looking like in orbit and beyond, say in the next 5 years, and then in the next 25 years?
Great question, Tom. The crystal ball is a little clearer in the near term, of course, but I definitely see in 5 years that transition we talked about from ISS to commercial LEO destination or shuns is well underway and is going successfully, and new markets are happening. Starship is flying. See further revolutionary drops in the cost of getting things into space. By the way, World Space Week next year, the theme will be the rocket revolution. We'll be in October 4th through 10th. We'll be talking about how launch has changed everything and how it continues to change everything. 25 years, the space frontier is moving way, way fast. It's left LEO. It's probably past the moon. There'll be commercial activities coexisting with government activities, lunar mining and other economic activities, I'm sure, as well as science and so on. And we're out, the first people have landed on Mars, and we're starting to do amazing things there. So that's the short answer.
Okay. I do have one thing from Morty coming in. He says, why don't we turn, and I've heard this before, and you have too, why don't we turn the ISS into a business and improve it to be more efficient and win the early private space lab market?
Yeah, so the ISS is huge and expensive.
Yeah.
And if we continued it in any form whatsoever, it would draw so much money away from everything else that NASA wants to do. Probably there will be no commercial LEO destinations. We're simply maintaining a museum or whatever you want to call it.
That is the dirty, unfortunately, of ISS, is that it's a bitch to maintain. It is, how many billion a year? 3, 4?
Yeah.
The Boeing contract is $3 billion.
But I mean, if you shut the program down, but you wanted to keep the hardware, to keep it flying, you need power, you need computers. Mm-hmm. They all need crews to maintain. Next thing you know, you're still paying for the whole program. So it's a fallacy to suggest that anything can be done with ISS. As much as with all due respect, it has to be terminated so that the next generation can take off.
Yep.
Right on.
Okay. Well, I don't know, Morty, but now he's saying that, I'm sure we could write up a case for it. NASA might give it away, I guess, just to keep it up, and then it becomes maintaining and winning an early market. It's still okay. Show me where the first $3 billion is coming from to start that.
Right, and then the business case.
I will sign on.
You can't privatize an aircraft carrier. They're not designed.
And that's great. That is a great.
That's a good one-liner.
Good one.
I like that.
Yep. Okay. On that note, Dennis Stone, we're going to do this again. I'm hoping I want to get you to ISDC next year in McLean, Virginia. because I know I've been tapped to do a panel on stuff like this, and I want you on it if you're willing. And I'm also running the business track right after that. So let's see where we can get you situated, and let's do some things.
Love it.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
My good friend Stoney. Take care, man. Stick around. We'll talk afterwards. Okay. For Thursday, I think we had a guest, but the guest had to cancel for unfortunate circumstances. So unless we get a new one in the next 3 days, it'll probably be the usual free-for-all of news, hearsay, innuendo, and general tomfoolery. All as always, it's 8 p.m. Eastern. And so for Michael Lane and Sean Key, our producer, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.